is going on, guys? My name is Briley Taylor. I'm the owner and operator of 6 Feet Under Fab. Tonight we are in my shop and we're gonna continue working on dead plates here. So in the last video that I put out on this, I believe I put the shock tabs on the front. Whenever I ordered shocks, I didn't measure them and they came way too long, so I had to put a new shock tower on. I just kind of fabbed it up from an old 8.8 axle swap. So I just cut it pretty much to make it fit, and it worked out pretty good. Tonight we're gonna start working on something that is definitely needed for this rig. So if you're not familiar with this Jeep, this is a budget build that I'm building for the BleepinJeep Beast Wars, about a month away from tonight. And I still don't have this thing together. So I'm trying to, crunch down and get this thing going. But what I'm working on tonight is something that every rock crawler definitely needs. Even trail rigs, I would recommend them, which is sliders. So if you're not familiar with sliders, what they do is they go right here. They do a couple of things. They protect the body from getting bashed in, and they also make it so where that if you do, so say if this is a rock and you're driving and you land on it, it helps you just slide off of them instead of that pointy rock just jabbing into your body. And if that rock is jagged enough, you'll get stuck. So you'll end up with body damage and you'll have to winch out. So there's a lot of companies that make a lot of sliders for a lot of different vehicles. There are some out there that you can buy for a full-size Jeep like this one. So originally my plan was to just make some sliders for this Jeep just to keep costs down, because sliders are pretty expensive. So I was just gonna take some DOM tubing and just bend some tube the way I want it with my swag bender. But I was actually on Facebook Marketplace and I found something that I might could use. So check these out. So these are two sliders for a 3rd gen 4Runner that I picked up from Marketplace for 300 bucks. And you might say, man, that sounds like a lot of money. You're doing a budget build. Well, honestly, realistically, there's probably about $300 worth of metal just sitting right here. So I'm not sure of what company these sliders are for. They don't look homemade. They don't look like all pro sliders, but I've kind of just looked around Google and stuff like that, and I've seen a couple of these that look very similar that were selling for around $700-800 for a whole set for a 4Runner, not for a full-size Jeep. So I talked with the dude that I bought them from. He sent me some measurements, and I think we can make these work. So these will definitely not bolt right on like they would a 3rd gen 4Runner, but I believe with a little bit of cutting, a little bit of welding, and just a little
tiny pinch of magic,
we can make them work just fine for old dead plates here. So typically whenever I do sliders or anything like that, I like to do them in the middle bay, but I'm waiting for a drive shaft for this, and so I can't really just back it out and drive it over here, and I really don't want to get the tractor and push and pull it all. So I think I'm going to try to do it on the lift bay, and I may end up trying to use the lift to actually hold the sliders in place so that I can figure out exactly what I need to do. Now, I've done some measurements. They are going to be a little bit long, but I think that's going to be just fine. Something else that I really liked about these is you can see right here is they have what I call a kick out. So you can see right there, kick out right there. So that's the front, this is the rear. And basically what the kick out does is that, so if you come along a tree or something, it'll actually push your vehicle away from the tree. And I really like that because if you notice on this Jeep, I don't have any fenders in the front because obviously I did a dove nose, and in the rear I have these full fenders. So these are metal fenders that are integrated in part of the body, and if I cut them, I'm gonna have some weird angles and stuff like that. So I really wanted to leave these full fenders in the rear because I thought they looked kind of cool. But I think with the sliders, with the kick out, you know, right along here, it's going to make these rear fenders make sense, because right now they don't really make sense. And there's really not a whole lot about this Jeep that makes sense. I realize that, but I feel like the sliders with the kick out will definitely complement the rear fenders. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to figure out which side that I want to go where, but it looks like there is kind of a curve to them. I don't know if y'all can see that. There's a little curve. So this actually may be the driver's side. Yeah, so I think this is going to be my driver's side. All right, I've made up my mind. This side is going to be the driver's side. That side is going to be the passenger side, just because they're banked just a little bit. And you want them banked just because it'll kind of resemble like a boat side. So that way it'll kind of just push stuff off and give you some more ground clearance while protecting the body. So, you know, like I said, it'll kind of be at an angle while it's protecting the body right here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get these mocked up the best that I can, and then I'll show you what we got. All right, so I have the sliders just kind of mocked up with the lift here, and check it out. I think they look really good, especially with that rear fender. So you can see how it just kind of follows the body line and kind of jolts out for that rear fender. Man, these fit pretty awesome. Not so much on the inside where like they mount to the frame. That's not awesome, but I can make this work. This is gonna save me multiple nights of bending tube, notching it, getting it perfect, having to go buy the tube, mess like that. So I'm really digging this. I'll show you what it looks like from the back. Like I said, this is just kind of like a mock-up, so I think I need to come out just a little bit more in the front. But man, that's awesome. I'll show you what it looks like on the inside, or underneath. So obviously I have a pretty massive gap between the actual sliders and the frame. It's just metal. It can be cut and re-welded. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get this lined up exactly where I want it, and then I'm going to pull some measurements, mark the frame exactly where I want it to get welded on, and then I can make extensions off of the slider here. Okay, so I have the measurements of how far I need to extend, and it's gonna be a little tricky because this middle one is right where the frame bends in. So let me see if I can show you. I did not think about this, but so if you look right there, where that red mark is, the frame actually protrudes out about an inch or two. So I'm gonna have to make one of those, so I'm gonna have to make that middle mount at an angle, which is fine. I'm just gonna have to put a little bit more time and effort into that middle one. The two outside mounts, that's gonna be fairly simple. I'm just gonna have to cut, and just extend them with some metal. So that one's gonna have to be, let's see, 4 inches and 5/8 extended. This one is roughly 2 inches at an angle, and this one has to be extended 1 inch and 7/8. So that's not that bad. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and cut this one off. That way I can go to my scrap pile and see if I can find some metal where I can sleeve it and extend it out. So let me show you what I have figured out. So this was just kind of my test piece, and what I did was I cut it down flat, and then I found some square tubing that'll mount like that, and then this will go inside of it, and then I'm just gonna weld and gusset the crap out of it, and I've got it exactly where I want it. It's a little bit taller than 6.5 inches. So all these measured out to 5 3/8 inches stock, and then, not stock, but how they're made. And then these numbers on there is what I have to add to that 3 5/8. But I'm going to keep cutting away while Patrick starts working on his Super Duty axle over there. That's gonna be on the channel here shortly. All right, so we're gonna get back to work. I'll set the camera up on a tripod and film a little bit. So I have all of my scrap metal cut to where I want it. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just tack weld these
Pick number 3, my lord.
I'm gonna tack weld these 3 pieces of metal to the slider. And then I'm going to just take these and just slide them in, just like that. And then I'm going to get the slider lined up on dead plates. And then I'm going to take my welder over to the Jeep and just wherever these land, you know, distance-wise right here, wherever they contact the frame best, that's where I'm gonna weld them. And so this one, I don't have it at an angle. I think I'm just going to build a bracket off of the frame. Once it contacts the frame, I'm just gonna build a little mount off of it and a gusset, kind of just make it fit. And I'll do the same thing for the rear. I need to clean that one up so I can get some good weld on it. But anyway, I'm gonna tack weld these on and then move everything to the Jeep. All right, so this worked a lot easier than what I thought. It was really easy with these slider shims that I have. But I've got the slider pretty much exactly where I want it. It is all flush on the frame, except for where I have to build something off the frame to put that one at an angle. I didn't really feel like messing with that, I'll be honest with you. I'm just gonna put some gussets on that center one right there. I know you can't see it, but it's dark. But you can see right here, it pretty much follows this body line perfect. How cool is that? So I'm gonna crawl up underneath it and check for clearances, make sure everything's good, and then I'm going to tack weld where that piece slides in inside of the sleeve, and then I'll take it back off and fully weld it, put some gussets on it, and then we'll be ready to put it on the Jeep. check it out. So I didn't put any gussets on there. I feel 100% confident that the welds that I got will be plenty strong for this application here. But man, that is a lot of welding. In some places I did do 2 passes just to, just to strengthen it up. And then I went and I just cleaned everything where I'm gonna be welding. I forgot to clean up here. But I guess I'm gonna clean up here real quick, and then we're going to mock it up on the Jeep and probably throw a tack weld on. So while I was letting my welder cool down, I went ahead and ground down the frame to bare metal. You see right there. So I've got that all cleaned up and it's ready to weld on. So yeah, let's do it. So I'm gonna call this a success. Check that out. That is so freaking cool. I love that kick out right there. I feel like that changes the whole look of this Jeep. I realize that it's only tacked on, but that looks so good to me. And I've only destroyed my shop in the process. Definitely worth it. So now I've just got to come in here and I've got to make some gussets, and I'm just gonna gusset it to the frame, and then that's pretty much gonna be it, except for paint. So I'm probably gonna call it a night right now and come back in here tomorrow, fully weld it. I don't wanna get that frame too terribly hot. These full-size Jeep frames, they aren't the thickest in the world. And it's basically just C-channel all the way up to about the cross member up front. So I don't want to get it too terribly hot. Plus I got gas lines on the other side of it. So I'm just going to take my time when I'm welding this and making gussets and stuff like that. There is nothing like welding all night in the shop and enjoying a ice cold chili water. It just hits different, I promise. So it is the next morning, and as you can see, I have dead plates on the lift. So I finished the passenger side and got it tacked on, and I was gonna weld everything just on the ground, but I was getting super frustrated trying to weld, especially on my back with the lift right here. So I was like, why don't I just pick the Jeep up and weld it from underneath? So that's exactly what I did. So let me show you what I got going on. So I have this side completely welded, and I've just got to go back over and make sure I got good passes everywhere. But now that the Jeep is up in the air, you can kind of see. So this side, this is the front right there. You can see I've got good penetration. I still got to weld the top up. Crap, I forgot about that. But I just used the bolt holes on the slider just as rosette welds, and got good penetration all around. Clean the welds up. They look pretty good. And this is the one where you can see where the frame bends right here. So what I did was I just took some 1/4 inch metal, and I got to plate the top too. But I took some 1/4 inch metal and just cut out a couple of pieces, welded it all up. So I feel pretty good about that one. Then we got the rear one right there. Looks like I got a couple of holes in my weld. Gonna have to fix that. I want these welds as strong as possible, but I'm pretty pumped about it. And then I'll show you the passenger side. So like I said, I got the passenger side just tack welded on, but I basically just cut the same exact metal for each side, and it worked out pretty good. But this is the gap that I have up against me. You know, I had to just put some braces in here, some gussets, and just weld it all up. And I feel pretty confident that that's gonna be definitely strong enough for any rocks that this thing lands on. But I'm super excited about these 4Runner sliders on this thing. But anyway, my welder's finally cooled off, so now I'm just gonna keep on welding.
8 hours later.
All right. So gave my welder some time to cool off, and while I did that, I threw in a makeshift drive shaft because I want to back this Jeep out of the shop. That way I can clean up, and my drive shaft hasn't come in yet. I got something super cool lined up for that. So what I did was I took the drive shaft out of my J10 project, cut it down, and I'm just gonna, like I said, I just did that so I could back it out of the shop and clean up because my shop is absolutely destroyed. So I'm gonna get the Jeep down off of the lift, and then we'll check out these sliders. All right, it is outside for the first time in a while. Man, it looks so much cooler outside of the shop than it does inside the shop. I'm very excited about how these sliders turned out. The cicadas and the trees are going crazy. But man, I really feel like they complement this build so much. And another thing is I feel like it makes it look more like a rock crawler than like a redneck monster truck.
This is weird!
It pretty much still looks like a redneck monster truck, but we're just gonna pretend that it's a rock crawler. But that's probably gonna do it for this video, guys. I appreciate you watching me weld on these 4Runner sliders onto dead plates here. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any other content on this build. Like I said earlier, we're gonna be competing this thing in about a month from now, and I plan on sending this thing to the absolute moon. So make sure y'all stay tuned for that. You can check it out on BleepinJeep's channel, and you can actually check it out on my channel too. But anyway, I appreciate y'all watching. We'll see y'all next week.